thank you, merciful Savior, for your goodness, for waking us up this morning. And now as we stand, enlighten us and cause us to understand. In Christ's name, amen. I'm trying to see if I can finish my presentation because this is my last one. So, yesterday, we looked at, what did you say, a trumpet, another symbol for a trumpet, or one. And you said you can plug those 4 horns, right? On the various waveforms, right? You did, right? Yes. 1989, 9/11, midnight, the midnight crack. And I'm sure that this is emphasizing a progressive fall, right? But particularly a progressive fall of the This is the third part of what? Of modern Babylon, right? Yes, the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. And then we showed from the logic that what did we say means that the United States is going to be divided into 4 parts. It's going to be broken. Yeah, but what is it? It's going to be broken into 4 parts, but what? Okay, divided towards the 4 winds, it's subjugated by the Greeks, right? It's come under the dominion of the one-world government. What else? 4 winds.
4 soul judgments.
4 soul judgments. And what did we say the 4 soul judgments are? And pestilence. And what gave us the prophetic justification to all 4 soul judgments? We said when does the mighty king begin to stand? When does he stand initially? At the midnight cry, but when is he anointed? At midnight, when Jehu is anointed, right? So that Jehu is Alexander the Great. And Jehu is anointed at midnight because of the tarry not flee and the open the door. And we showed that by his work of purging and bringing a reign of terror begins at the midnight cry to the Sunday law. So we said, and the mighty king was Alexander the Great. How many pieces of silver did he have when he conquered the Persia? 70, and we said to plug the number 70, right? From MC to the Sunday law. So when he stands, Alexander the Great, his kingdom is divided into 4 winds. And Alexander the Great will be leading which kingdom when he stands? When he stands, when the mighty king stands, which kingdom is he identified now as leading? It's Greece. Because when he stands, he's now leading the Greeks. The same time that he's now leading the Greeks, what happens to his kingdom? It is divided. And what is his kingdom? The United States. So the kingdom of the mighty king is going to be broken into 4 parts. And when do the Greeks begin to stand? When do the Greeks begin to stand? At the midnight cry. Remember, we showed that Zechariah chapter 8 says, it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold of the skirt, shall seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem. Is this 10 men? This is the history of the rise of the 10 kings. And they are seeking the Lord of hosts where? In Jerusalem. So the 10 kings begin to rise at the midnight cry. Because Israel rises into Jerusalem on the first day of the 8th month. So when the 10 kings begin to stand, when the leader of the United States transitions to becoming the leader of the UN, what happens to his kingdom? It's broken. And when does that transition take place? Midnight cry onwards. So when is the breaking of the US into 4 parts? Midnight cry. And we said that those 4 parts at one level, they are a symbol of 4 soul judgments. Right? Remember, Brother Tabo has been looking at the Constantines. And what did he show happens to Clovis' kingdom when he dies at 45? Amongst his 4 sons. But his 4 sons began to rule. But I believe these sons can be a symbol of the judgments. Because those sons became rulers, didn't they? And there is a ruler, a warning. And it's a warning, a judgment. Yes, that's what we're emphasizing, right? So we chose the 4 soul judgments and we stretched them out. And we applied them from 1989, 9/11, midnight and the midnight cry. And what we say is the first of those four sword judgments. The sword. Can you mark the sword in 1989? Yes. Because this is where you mark the first trumpet, and the first trumpet is what? Hail. But in the Bible we said hail is reserved for which time? For the day of battle and war. Right? So you can mark war on the sword in 1989. And then we put the second of those four sword judgments, famine, at 9/11. And you saw that it fits, right? Because it was the financial crisis at 9/11. Yes, so we put famine there. And then we said the third of those was what? Pestilence. And when we looked at the pestilence, we showed that in the story of David, how many days does the Lord send pestilence for? 3 days, right? And can you mark the number 3 in the binding mark? Midnight to midnight cry. Yes. How long is Daniel fasting for in Daniel chapter 10? 21 days. When he gets to day 21, how many times is he touched? He's touched 3 times. And after the third touch, what does the angel say? Be strong, be strong, double. And when he tells him that, he says, which kingdom is now coming? Greece. You follow? So you can put the number 3 there. And then we put the noisome beast at midnight cry onwards. Is this the history when beasts are coming in? What are beasts? Kingdoms. So it's the time when the noisome beasts are coming, the kingdoms. Right? And then we saw that in Ezekiel is going to mention those 4 sword judgments again. But this time is going to be more specific, and it's going to say that their judgments upon a third part, which gave us prophetic justification to line up the 4 sword judgments with the trumpets. Because the trumpets are judgments upon a what? A third part, right? If you look at the trumpets, it's third part of this, third part of that. So once we've done that, we saw that Ezekiel mentions them again in a similar way. But instead of saying 4 sword judgments, instead of saying noisome beast, what does he replace it with? 4 winds. So what are the noisome beasts? It's 4 winds. What are 4 winds? 4 winds. Because when you get to this history, at the 4th trumpet of the 4th sword judgment, the United States is broken towards all winds. You follow? The climax of the revolution and the subjugation by the 10 kings. And then we looked at the last 4 plagues in Egypt. Right? Because what does the Lord do when he brings these 4 sword judgments? How does he inaugurate them? What does he do? He stretches out his hand. And what does the Lord do when he brings the last 4 plagues? He stretches out his hand. And what's the first of the last 4 plagues? Hail. What's the second? Locusts. Can you put locusts at 9/11? Yes. And what's the third of those? Darkness. And how long did that darkness go for? 3 days. But we read a passage in Psalm 91 which says, the pestilence that walketh in darkness. So where you are having the pestilence, you're also seeing darkness, so there's a connection, right? And then we showed that you can mark darkness from midnight to the midnight cry. We looked at the line of Christ, right? Christ is on the cross at the 6th hour, which is midday, which is midnight. Because Sister White says that when Christ was on the cross, it was the darkest period, right? It was the darkest time. But what do you know to be the darkest time of the day? Of the 24 hours? It's midnight. So midday, when Christ was on the cross, was the darkest time. So midday has the characteristics of midnight. So midday is midnight. And then, but the darkness spanned for how long? 3 hours. And when you get to the 9th hour, what does Christ say? Eloi, Eloi, my God, right? Midnight cry. And then we looked at the 4th of those Egyptian plagues as Passover. And you said Passover was the death of what? The firstborn. And what is the firstborn? A symbol. Strength. The strength. And what's the strength of the US? And the death of the firstborn is Passover. And Passover is the French Revolution. Because Christ was slain in Saudi Arabia, right? And the crucifixion is the Passover. So this is showing you the climax of the revolution at the midnight cry. You follow? So what we want to do today is, if you turn to the notes, I want to look at the trumpets, but particularly my emphasis is on the 4th trumpet. So the 4th trumpet. So let me just try and direct you to the page. Who remembers what page we ended on? Odawesa. This is page 41. Page 41. Where it says fourth trumpet, fourth 7 times, all winds noise and peace. So I'm going to read. So Odawesa, for those who are not familiar with it, was the primary figure under the fourth trumpet. You follow? So Odawesa was the primary figure under the fourth trumpet. So what would we mark the career of Odawesa? Midnight cry to the sun, you know, right? Because of the fourth trumpet. So let's read this one, and then I want to engage you to see how you're going to place this. So I'm reading this extract. Should be Wikipedia. Odawesa was a military leader in Italy who led the revolts of the Herodian, the Lycian, and the Syrian soldiers that deposed Romulus and Nyasha in September 476. So who was Odawesa? He was a military man, he was a soldier, but how did he rise? A revolt. A revolt. We follow that. So Odawesa rises through a revolt. So let's read the next bold phrase. I'm just going to read it in bold. The Germanic Theodarati, the Syrians, and the Heruli, as well as a large segment of the Italian Roman army, then proclaimed Odawesa king of Italy. So Odawesa is made king. You follow? He rises by a revolt and then he's made a king. He's made into a king. Right? In 476, Odawesa advanced to Ravenna and captured the city, compelling the young emperor Romulus to abdicate in September 4. According to the anonymous Valesenius, Odawesa was moved by Romulus's youth and beauty to not only spare his life, but also to give him a pension of 6,000 solidi and sent him to Campania to live with his relatives. In 476, Odawesa became the first barbarian king of Italy. You follow? There's much we can do, which I didn't have time to show in this presentation. But you can bring in many lines, you can bring in Judges chapter 9. You know, this person is not supposed to be a king. Do you follow? But he's making himself into a king. He's investing power in himself. Right? In 476. So let's page 44. This is Uriah Smith commenting. If you look at the fourth trumpet, what does the Bible identify the fourth trumpet to be targeting? What are the symbols that are used? Sun, moon, and the stars, right? The three heavenly bodies, the luminaries. But for those who read 1 Corinthians 15, which we all have, what's the sun associated with? And the stars and the moon? When Paul is talking about them, he says the sun is its what? Glory. It's glory. So what's the sun a symbol of? Christ. You know, in this context, it's leadership. But if the sun is associated with glory, then what's the sun a symbol of at the end of the world? The Constitution, right? Because what does Odawesa, what does the fourth trumpet do? It darkens the sun, right? It darkens the sun. So the career of Odawesa has got constitutional implications. Because the sun is a symbol of glory, and in Great Controversy 252, Sister White says that the Constitution of the United States is our glory. You follow? Yes. So I'm going to read from Uriah Smith. I'm reading the boldface again. He's talking about Odawesa's career. The power and glory of Rome as bearing rule over any nation became extinct. Next boldface. The son of Rome was smitten. Next boldface. The military acclamations of the confederates of Italy saluted Odawesa with the title of king. So when Odawesa is now ruling as king, who are the people that is leading? The what? According to what I read. The confederates. Who are the confederates at the end of the war? The 10 kings. So if Odawesa is ruling the confederate tribes, who's Odawesa is leading them? He's Trump. We follow? So let's use this logic. So, in terms of Daniel 11, who is it that rules Greece? According to in the historian, who was the ruler of Greece? Who was the leader of Greece? Alexander the Great. So Alexander is the leader of the Confederates, right? Yes, because he's leading Greece. So Alexander leads the Confederates. In our first presentation, who else did we see is an interchangeable symbol with Alexander? Yeah, Xerxes, true. Who else? Jehu, do you remember? Yes, Jehu and Alexander the Great are the same, right? Yes. So Jehu will be a leader of what? The Confederates, right? So Jehu leads the Confederates. And where did we say Jehu was anointed? At midnight. And when did we say the Articles of Confederation was agitated? Yes, midnight. And historically, what date was it? July 21, 1774. Yeah, it should be 74, but it was July 21. That's when Benjamin Franklin introduces the idea of, having a confederacy of 10 presidents, of 10 kings coming to rulership. But it begins on July 21. So what we're showing from this is, if the Articles of Confederation was agitated at midnight, July 21, and Jehu was a symbol of a leader who's ruling the Confederates at the end of the world, is anointed at midnight from what we showed. Therefore, when does Odowesa have to be anointed? Since Odowesa, as we have said rightly, is Jehu and Alexander the Great, because Odowesa is ruling the Confederates. So when does Odowesa have to be anointed as king? Before he begins his work. Midnight. Do we follow the logic? And Odowesa rises to a revolt, but he was a soldier, right? Okay. Let's So when Odowesa comes to rise, he marks the end of Western Rome, for those who are familiar with the history. And in 476, Western Rome had been left divided into how many parts? 10 parts. 10 parts. The career of Odowesa completed the division of Western Rome into 10 parts. So at the midnight cry, do you not see a 10-fold division originating because of the activities of the United States? Don't we? Yes, because can you have the 10 kings ruling if the United States hasn't been broken? It has to be, right? So Odowesa in his career at the midnight cry, he marks the end of Western Rome. In this logic, Western Rome is the United States. The United States is broken here. And when it's broken, you now see 10 parts coming in. The 10 kings have to rise when the US is broken. Daniel 11:4, isn't it? And the mighty king shall stand, and when he shall stand, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided towards the 4 kings. So the United States has to be broken in order for the 10 kings to emerge. Western Rome has to be broken in order for you to see 10 parts. You follow? Yes. So, I'm going to read the explanation. Here we see that Odowesa starts off as a soldier who then rises through a revolt, a revolution, as a leader of the threefold union. Did you see when the historians were marking Odowesa? He was leading 3 tribes. Did you notice that? Right? The historians mentioned 3 tribes. And is Trump going to be leading a threefold union? Yes. You can show that his revolt begins at midnight, which is the American Revolution, which we're identifying in this particular narrative as the Constitutional Convention at midnight. The first president of the USA was a military man who led in the Revolutionary War and was then made president. Hence, we have a connection with Odowesa, who starts as a military man and then is made king of Italy through a revolt. The revolt really began, I think I have to skip this. Okay, let me read that. Okay, let's skip this. Let's go to page 46. Odowesa was a barbarian, right? And I have the definition for barbarian there as a foreigner, right? You follow? The barbarian is a foreigner. So let's read PK 215 paragraph 1. comment above. Or the way I believe is an interchangeable symbol with Augustulus, who's Augustus as well, as I believe they are teaching the progressive fall of the USA as the 45th, okay, let's go to PK. After he had been proclaimed king by the army, Jehu hastened to Jezreel, day of the Lord, where he began his work of execution on those who had deliberately chosen to continue in sin and to lead others into sin. So who anointed Jehu as king? Because we said Jehu was anointed when? At midnight. But who made Jehu king from the spot? The army. Who made all the ways the king? The army. So if Jehu is made king by the army, and we said Jehu was anointed at midnight, and all the ways is made king by the army, therefore when does all the ways have to be anointed? Midnight. If we follow the logic, right? Midnight. We already showed in the previous article how the anointing of Jehu is at midnight, so the anointing of all the ways is also at midnight. It's not an accident that all the ways arose through a revolt revolution. All the ways then goes on to end the imperial succession in Italy, which was the form of government existing. Then, typifying how the rise of the mighty king as Trump becomes a dictator will result in the abolition of the US government as its constitution is overthrown. The sun was darkened under Odawesa, and the sun is associated with glory, and the glory of the USA is its constitution. But more specifically, in this narrative, Odawesa is identifying the repudiation of the executive branch president as enshrined in the constitution to a dictatorship. When Odawesa rose to power in 476, Western Rome was broken into 10 parts, which I'm suggesting is identifying how the USA will come under the dominion of 10 kings, divided towards the four winds as barbarians rule over them. One of the ways that you can show that the career of Odawesa has its footsteps at midnight is the connection between the number 3 and 4. Right? Odawesa is under which trumpet? The 4th. But midnight is which trumpet? The 3rd. Okay, what's going to result in the constitutional convention at midnight from what we're identifying? When Jehu was made king, what had just happened to the king at that time? What had happened to him? He had been wounded by who? By Hazael. What did we say Hazael is a symbol of? Putin. So can you have the anointing of Jehu without the activities of Hazael? No. So what's going to lead to the rise of the mighty king? Strike by Russia. And Russia is trumpet number what? 3. But the mighty king is trumpet number what? 4. But we want to argue that there's a connection in the Bible between the numbers 3 and 4. Cause and effect. So the 3rd trumpet results in the 4th trumpet. You follow? Okay. Amos 1:3. For 3 transgressions of Damascus and for 4. Verse 6. For 3 transgressions of Gaza and for 4. So the Bible makes upon 2 witnesses that you ought to relate to the number 3 and 4 in connection with one another. For 3 and for 4. 3rd trumpet results in 4th trumpet. You follow? Cause and effect. Right? The Bible talks about the 3rd and 4th generation. Right? It's intentional by God to show you that you need to relate to the numbers 3 and 4 in connection. You follow? Right? The 3rd trumpet, which we also said is the darkness and the pestilence, is marked at midnight, but because the connection between the numbers 3 and 4, we want to see the 4th trumpet having some activity at midnight. To further solidify the claims we are making about Jehu being anointed at midnight, but beginning his reign of terror at the midnight cry. Now, I have here 1st trumpet, adoration, the reign of terror. So there's something that I want us now to do. When is the revolution in the United States? When does the revolution sweep away the American government? When is the United States broken? At the midnight cry, right? But we looked at Tiberius Caesar, because we showed that the midnight cry is the cross, isn't it? It's this Passover, right? And Christ was slain in the time of which Roman ruler? Tiberius, right? Tiberius. But the Bible in Daniel 11:22 says, with the arms of a flood shall the overflower Tiberius be overflowed, and his arms shall be broken, yea, also the pricks of the covenant. And this is Passover when the Prince of the Covenant is broken, isn't it? The midnight cry. But the Bible is telling us that when the Prince of the Covenant is broken, who's also being broken by an overflow? Tiberius, the United States, his kingdom, right? It's also broken during the time when the Prince of the Covenant is broken. It is broken through a what? A revolution, which is symbolized by the what? Overflowing. By the overflowing. But what did we say? Gives us the justification to one of the reasons to see a revolution at the midnight cry when the United States is broken. From Daniel 11. What was one of the proof texts that we used? From Daniel 11, 40 to 45. So, verse 40, how does the papacy enter the Soviet Union? It overflows. Verse 41 says what? Ye shall also enter into the glorious land. So, also we said means what? In a similar way. How did he enter the Soviet Union? He overflew, right? So how is he going to enter the USA? Overflowing. And where are we marking the overflowing? At the midnight cry. So the characteristics here can be applied where? At the midnight cry. Do you follow? The characteristics here can be marked at the midnight cry. Overflowing, overflowing. Right? Which trumpet is active here? First trumpet. So, where else can you apply the first trumpet? Where? At the midnight cry. Right? The trumpets are broken into 4-3. Right? The first 4 trumpets bring the demise of Western Rome. Right? So, the 4th trumpet is the end of the end, right? But the first trumpet is the beginning of the end of Western Rome. So what do you have there? You have a beginning and an end. So, based on the rules that we use in this message, what can you do to beginnings and endings? You can superimpose them, right? You can overlay them. So, first trumpet can be overlaid over the top of trumpet number what? Number 4. Do you follow? And the leader under the first trumpet is Alaric. We haven't done a study on the Christian coalition, but I just mentioned, I didn't prove it, but I'm just mentioning it again. 1989, who do you have rising for those who know? Pat Robertson, Alaric Robertson. And who's he leading? The Christian coalition. And what's their motive? To take control of the US government. And you can show if you do a study when the document is out. When you get to 9/11, what has the Christian coalition done?
Took control of all.
They're taking control of the US government. Right? They're taking control of. That's why the United States was created the Casa Sunday law. Because the Protestants had taken control of the government. Right? But the Lord restrained them. Right? That's why Jehu wasn't anointed at the time appointed. The Lord restrained him. But they're going to, and Sister White says that the Sunday movement makes its way in darkness. Right? So you probably can say it's at midnight when the Constitutional Convention is set. You're going to see them now making their way in this darkness. But you can understand the darkness will be from 9/11 onwards because they hate it. But I think you can apply it here as well. Because at the end of the darkness, the Sunday law movement comes out. It speaks, because this is the first Sunday law. At the midnight cry report. Yes. So the first trumpet is going to be active at the midnight cry. Right? Because of the beginning and ending. They need to reaccomplish their purpose. So the Protestants are going to now take control of the government at the midnight cry and bring in the Christian reign of terror. You follow? Yes. So let me read this. Which verses do we use for Daniel 11? For the time of the end. From Daniel 11. Which verses mark the time of the end in Daniel 11? Verse 40 and what? 40 and for the time of the end. This one. Yeah, that's true, but the more directly, as opposed to the prophetic rules within rules application. More directly, which verses, which is our primary verse for the time of the end? We said verse 40. but which verse gave us the ability to see that technically the king of the south was not conquered in 1989. Verse 10. So where do we put verse 10? Yeah, right? So as a symbol, where can you apply verse 10? At the midnight cry. If someone is following the logic. Do we see that? It's a symbol. So this can be verse 10. Right? Let's read it. We read something yesterday. The Soviet Union forged to fall. Who spearheaded the fall of the Soviet Union? That revolution that took place was behind it. The papacy. But was the papacy working alone? No. You had the moral majority, right? The Christian rights. And when you get to 1989, Jerry. Yes, he makes an announcement to say that our mission is accomplished when the Soviet Union was fallen. So the Christian coalition had a mission to cause the Soviet Union to fall. And when you get to 1999, it's not an accident that he makes a public statement that our mission is accomplished. So their mission was to overthrow the Soviet Union, right? But the United States is conquered in a similar way. So they're going to accomplish their same mission at the midnight cry, when they now overflow the US. Do you follow? Yes. And when they've overflown the US, they're going to overflow the world. Do you follow? Because this is all an activity of the Protestants. They want to establish a rule of the world. They want worldwide dominion. So, one of the things I seek to show, as I have been emphasizing, is the relationship between the first and the last. We can also overlay the first trumpet over the fourth, since they're the first and the last. And the first four trumpets are connected as much by the last four plagues, which God calls all my plagues. Having shown that all the waste is anointed at midnight, to begin his work firmly at the midnight cry, which is illustrated by the standing up of the mighty king, and his kingdom being divided towards the four winds, which denotes revolution. And we showed that the papacy enters the USA in a similar way to how he entered USSR in 1989. Which was by a revolution. At that level, you have prophetic justification to make 1989 a symbol of the midnight cry. And since the first trumpet is hail, you can make the hail a symbol of the midnight cry. Where you also have the fourth trumpet. Did you see that? What's the first trumpet? The hail. So you can mark the hail at 1989. Where else can you mark the hail? Midnight cry. So you bring in the first trumpet and the fourth trumpet together, line upon line. Right? So for those who are already following the logic, just by default, if the fourth trumpet begins its work at the midnight cry, but it's ordained at midnight, when should the first trumpet be ordained? At midnight, because they're the same. Right? They're the same before you prove it. Just by default, because of structure. Right? Everyone following. Okay. Let's read Daniel 11:10. But his sons shall be stirred up, and assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to his fortress. So in the first trump, in the Daniel 11:10, which we applied primarily in 1989, you see sons. How many sons were those? Historically. There were two sons. Who were the two sons historically that fulfilled Daniel 11:10? Historically, before the prophetic. Who were the two sons in verse 10? Antiochus the Great. And who? And Seleucus. Antiochus the Great, who lines up with Bush the Great. Right? So you can line up with Alexander the Great. The reason why they actually called him Antiochus the Great is because how he was conquering the world was similar to how Alexander the Great was conquering. So even the historians give you justification to treat him as Alexander, to mark him here at the midnight cry. Do you follow? But he was one of what? Two sons. Do you follow? He was one of two sons. Now, I've got here the Wikipedia extract on Pat Robertson. I'm going to read the boldface. Conservative Christianity in the United States. Marion Gordon Robertson was born on March 22, 1930 in Lexington, Virginia, into a prominent political family, the youngest of two sons. So Pat Robertson was one of what? Two sons. He's untitled the Great at this level. But where are we applying this verse now symbolically? At the midnight cry. So at the midnight cry, you need to see two sons marked. Who do you think those two sons would be? The United States and the UN. Can you treat the United States and the UN as the sons of the papacy? Yes, because they're going to have the power stamp of their mother, the papacy. So, but one of the sons is going to overflow. Which one? Yeah? Which one is going to overflow? But I thought Antiochus the Great was the one who overflowed. I don't have an answer for that. I'm still confused. Anyone who knows to share. Which one of the two sons is going to overflow? Is it the US or the UN?
It's a UN.
The US. Okay, since there's no conclusive answer, let's leave that one. But what we can identify is that there are two sons. They follow. Yes. And then we're told in, okay, I'm not going to read it. But Pat Robertson left the coalition in 2001. Right? Robertson left soon after 9/11, which means something, but I'm not explaining. So let's read this. I hope I have enough time. I want to try and do this one in the course of time from my mind. It has recently been established that the Christian coalition under Pat Robertson and the 700 Club fulfilled the role of the first trumpet from 1989 to 9/11, when they burnt a third part of the trees, which is taking control of the third part of the US government, which is Congress in 1994. Because the first trumpet tells you that hail was going to burn a third part of the trees. And trees can be a symbol of governments. And it's not an accident that the United States is a threefold form of government. What are the three? Executive, judicial, and legislative. So in the history when the first trumpet is doing its work, 1989 to 9/11, you also see a third part of the trees burnt up. And in 1994, you had what you call the Republican Revolution, right? Where they took control of Congress, the Christian coalition. And Congress is a third part of the threefold branches of the United States. So they burnt a third part of the trees. It's not an accident. So first trumpet is solid thing. In the history of the Visigoths under Alaric, in the history of the Visigoths under Alaric sacked Rome 3 times, and the third sack was in 410, when they entered into the capital city and placed their banners or idolatrous standards, which we understand to be symbolically representing how the CCA managed to insert conservative ideas into the strongholds of the United States, which is its prophetic capital, the Constitution in 1980. As evidenced by the Patriot Act, which switched to Roman law and establishing arrest when suspected as a terrorist or criminal. We follow that logic. When Alaric conquered Rome, what he did is that he entered into the capital city and he placed a banner in the capital city. And Alaric spans the career of the first trumpet. And when does the first trumpet go from? Which history does it span? 89 to 9/11, right? So the first trumpet comes to its end at 9/11 when it has accomplished its work. And when Alaric sacked Rome for the final time, before he died, and Genseric came to do the work of the second trumpet, what he did in 410 is that he entered into the capital city and he placed a banner, an idolatrous standard in the capital city. So before the first trumpet ends, when the first trumpet comes to its end, which is at 9/11, did you not see the Christian coalition or the papacy placing its idolatrous standard in the Constitution, which is the capital of the US? Huh? Yes, the Patriot Act, because the Constitution was changed at the 9/11 from English law to Roman law. So it's when they, okay. Alaric died the same year he sacked Rome in 410, and it's not an accident that Robertson left the CCA in December 2001, soon after 9/11. Because Alaric died soon after he placed the banner in Rome, and Robertson left the Christian cause soon after the 9/11 attacks, when they passed the Patriot Act. We follow the logic. Just thought to give a brief background for those who might not be familiar, but it's outside the focus of my study. In 1989, we have two sons marked, and it's not an accident that Robertson was the youngest of two sons, just like Antiochus the Great, who fulfilled Daniel 11:10, historically. One of those sons is the one who overflows, so we apply that to the midnight cry. We need to see an overflowing in two sons, which at this stage I believe has an internal application to the USA being one son and the UN being another. But also the two sons can be internal, signifying a civil war in the USA. Because at the midnight cry, the USA will be divided by civil war. And the word divide means to cut in two. So did you get the point? I'm saying the two sons, I believe, has a dual application to the US and the UN. But also that at the midnight cry, you can mark an activity. The two sons becomes a symbol of civil war. And we have not been shown by Brother Tabo that at the midnight cry, there's civil war in the US. When it's divided. So I'm saying those two sons can be representing a civil war. You follow? Right. And yeah, I didn't put this in the notes, but all the ways who was under the career of the fourth trumpet. Did he have a brother? Yes. What's his name? The brother's name. For those who want to Google. Or no. And so all the way was one of two sons. And he had a brother, he was one of two sons. So there's airtight evidence for doing what we're doing, superimposed in these topics. So we're going to look at the hail. So where are we now applying the hail as a symbol? At the midnight cry. So let's look at the characteristics of the hail in the Bible. The hail in the Bible, right? Isaiah 28:2. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which is as a tempest of hail, a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing. So what does hail do? It overflows. Is the United States overflowing at the midnight cry? Yes. Verse 3. The crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, shall be trodden underfoot. So what's one of the things that the hail does? It treads underfoot, right? Verse 17. Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place. Right? Let's read the next verse 18. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then shall ye be trodden underfoot. In this message, we have understood for years that overflowing scourge is the Sunday law. The Protestant churches shall lead out in it, and they shall be symbolized, and they are symbolized along with the papacy as a hail that overflows, which is marked at the midnight cry onwards. So do you see what we're emphasizing? When there's an overflowing, there's also what? A treading down. And what's a treading down? What's a treading down? You are telling me another word for treading down. I'm saying what is it? If you are to give someone a Bible study and they tell you that I don't understand what it means to be trodden down, what are you going to explain to them? I don't think you told them it's trafficking because you're giving them another word which is making it complicated.
It's destroying.
It's a what? We should be familiar in this message. Daniel 8, Revelation 11. Persecution. Because we said that the sanctuary and the host shall be what? Trodden underfoot. And Revelation 11 says what? The holy city shall they what? Tread underfoot until the time of the Gentiles. So what's one of the symbols of the treading down? Symbol. Revolution is not a symbol. It's the treading down. Huh? Hail. 1. According to Revelation 11, the holy city is to be trodden down for all of 42 months, right? So let's go to Mark 7:6. So it's a nuance, it's a sharing of dog. Mark 7:6. What do we say is coming in this history? In terms of the UN, what's one of the symbols for the UN? They are beasts. They are also, in terms of animals, they are also, yes? Dogs, yes. Mark 7:6. Mark 7:6, I'm looking. Matthew 7:6, which talks about dogs. Matthew, huh? Yes, Matthew 7:6. In the papacy swine, we know that, right? The papacy can be identified as the pigs, the 10 kings of the dogs. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before the swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. So what do dogs and swine do? They tread down, right? The papacy and the 10 kings are going to tread down. Matthew 7:6. What's 7 times 6? 42. So we can do that as long as it fits. Right? And when Odowesa began his work of abolishing the Western Roman Empire, who knows how old he was? By default, he was 42. If you calculate, he was 1942. Look in the history. So he was 42. Right? And the French Revolution talks about the two witnesses being slain, which we're saying is the midnight cry. But how long have the two witnesses given a testimony for? For 1260 days, which is 42 months. Yes, so I don't know if finish. Yes. At its height, the Roman Empire stretched from Britain. No, let's go to the boldface. It's now talking about the rise of Alaric. And Alaric is under the first trumpet. Right? But we're overlaying the first with the fourth. Yes. Whose leader from around 395 was a chieftain in his mid-20s named Alaric. Who knows what Alaric means? Ruler of the world. The same year also saw the death of the Emperor Theodosius the Great, after which the Roman Empire was divided into eastern and western halves under his son. So when Alaric is beginning his career, the kingdom was divided between two sons. Do you follow? In the history of the first trumpet, you see two sons. So I'll talk about the 81, but not let me leave this. Because you can show that from 395 to when Odowesa comes in 476 is 81 years. So you can mark 81 here for whoever understands what that means. Okay, maybe the Articles of Confederation is where do we mark the Articles of Confederation? MC to the Sunday law. Because the Articles of Confederation are 10 things, right? Yes. And when was the Articles of Confederation ratified? Like put in place? 1781. When did Ronald Reagan become president? 1981. And what does Ronald mean?
Dark.
Mighty King. Yes. So I'm reading this comment. I know some people missed it, but yeah, it's okay. Yes. Where it says in 410, this is when Alaric sacked Rome. In 410, with the authorities in Ravenna still refusing his demands, Alaric led his warriors against Rome once more. So we're saying you can mark the career of the fourth trumpet where? At the first trumpet where? At the midnight cry. We can, right? Yes. So Alaric is active here, but he's anointed before. In 410, with the authorities in Ravenna still refusing his demands, Alaric led his warriors against Rome once more. The Visigoths appeared outside the city in force, and the Senate prepared to resist. But in the middle of the night, what's the middle of the night? Midnight. In the middle of the night, the rebellious slaves opened the Salarian gate to the attackers, who poured in and set fire to the nearby houses. So Alaric sacks Rome for the final time at midnight. So where would you put that? Because he's now doing a destructive work. So which midnight is this? Because I know we read he applied midnight to midnight, but we always miss the principle. So I'm saying, which midnight is this? If you've been following the logic that he's now doing his destructive work, what did we say happens before the destructive work? What does the person have to be? They have to be anointed. When does Jehu begin his destructive work? Slay 70 sons of Ahab, right? Yes. So I'm saying, if you from this quotation, if Alaric in 14 is now doing a very radical destructive work, which midnight would this be? With a midnight cry. So he has to be anointed before. So 14 is a symbol of the midnight cry, right? Yes. So go to page 49. I'm reading the book. Even the status of the city of Rome had changed. It was no longer the administrative capital of the empire. So when Alaric sacks Rome in 14, it causes Rome to move the capital city. So what does that mean? The activities of the Protestants is going to cause the United States Constitution to be removed. You follow? Yes. The capital had been shifted to the Mediolanum, modern day Milan, but in response to Alaric's invasion of Italy, it was moved again. This time to the city of Ravenna near the sea. Why? Because Ravenna was more defensible. Let's go to the next bold. I'm starting from where it says the Visigoths, because Alaric was the leader of the Visigoths. The Visigoths committed acts of rape, killing and torture during the sack, and they captured and enslaved many Romans everywhere. Everywhere they went, they carried off all the valuables they could find. And after a 3-day reign of terror, the city was empty of wealth. Do you think it's an accident that the historians chose to use the word reign of terror for Alaric's siege in 410? This is the 3-day reign of terror. Right? Can you mark the number 3 from MC to Sunday Lord? Yeah. This is the binding off for the Levites, right? This is the binding off for the priests. And what we know about God's dealings with men, they're ever the same. So if you can mark a 3 from midnight to the midnight cry, where else can you mark a 3? Midnight to the midnight cry to the Sunday Lord. This is the binding off for the Gentiles, so you can put a 3 here as well. Right? Context. 3-day reign of terror. Other historians actually identify Alaric being made king in 391, but didn't actually rise to prominence to 395. So other historians will tell you that Alaric was made king in 391, but he rises to prominence in 395. Do you follow that concept? Right? And then it says Alaric died in 410 at the age of 40. Right? So he was 40 when he died. In 410 he was 40. So it means that he was 21 when he was first anointed by the army. So Alaric was made king by the army. He rose the same way all the Racer rose. So when is Alaric anointed? He's anointed by the army before his destructive work. Midnight. So if he's 40 years in 410, how old would he be in 391 when he's made king by the army? 21. Right? Yes, to 21. And can you mark the number 21 here? Huh? Yes. Yes, midnight. July 21. Okay, so let's keep this. There's a quotation here which says, the Hasmonean dynasty had been established by the Maccabean revolt and had gained independence from the Seleucid Empire, after which it became a powerful regional kingdom. The kingdom reached its greatest extent during the reigns of Alexander, Janus, and Salome Alexander, who had 2 sons, Heraclius and Aristobulus. Heraclius, the oldest son, was not as popular, so I'm just using that as a proof text to show that 2 sons can be a symbol of civil war. Because you're going to see that these 2 sons, Aristobulus and Heraclius, began to engage in a civil war. You follow that logic? Yes. Let's skip where it says 4th place. Let's skip all of that for the time. Let's go to page 51, where it says 4th 7 times Zedekiah. This is the climax of what I wanted to do. So I'm just going to try and put it in place. article and read yourself. Right? But basically what I've been doing is just repeating the structure in the book and just laying more witnesses on the same structure, so it's nothing new. Right? So that's why it was key to catch the foundational presentation. Right? The beginning presentations. So if we follow the logic, remember we said we can put Manasseh 1989, Joachim 911, Joachim midnight, Zedekiah the midnight cry. And in Leviticus 26, where it talks about the siege of Joachim, what does the Lord say He's going to bring? Let's go to Leviticus 26. In the siege of Joachim, which we're facing at midnight, what punishment does the Lord bring upon the people? 26:25. Leviticus 26:25. And I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant, and when ye are gathered together in your cities, I will send pestilence among you, and it shall be delivered into the hand of your enemy. So in the siege of Joachim, what does the Lord bring? Pestilence, and Joachim is the third of the 4 7 times. Haven't you been marking pestilence here? That pestilence is Russia. That's the pestilence that's coming. Right? Do we follow that? The connection. And the fourth one is Zedekiah. He's the final destruction of Jerusalem. But in a progressive order. So Zedekiah will be at the midnight cry. So let's read. I know we're running out of time. We're just trying to finish this. With that in place, I contend that you can do the same with the 4th 7 times. And it's clearly linked with the 4th trumpet because they are associated with darkness. What does the 4th trumpet do? It darkens, right? That's what it does. It darkens the 3rd part of the sun, etc. And in the 4th 7 times, that is Zedekiah, Leviticus 26:31, the Lord says, I will make your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. So what do you see there? Wasteness and desolation under the 4th trumpet. Waste, desolate. And then it says, I will scatter you among the heathen and will draw out a sword after you. So what does the Lord do in the 4th 7 times? He scatters the people where? Towards the 4 winds, among the heathen. Right? So, if you look at, when we saw that in the 4th sword judgment, the Lord says, I will scatter you among all winds. But there's a word that he mentions immediately after. He says, when I've scattered you among all winds, I will draw out a sword after you. So when the Lord scatters to all winds, he draws out a sword. But in this case, when the Lord scatters among the heathen, what does he do next? He draws a sword. So, scattering among the winds and scattering among the heathen are interchangeable. You follow? Because of the grammatical structure. Let's go to Zephaniah 1:14. It says, the great day of the Lord is near, it is near. Verse 15. A day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet. So what's the day? What's the wasteness and desolation? Is a day of what? Trumpet. It's the 4th trumpet. And the characteristics mentioned, they are repeating and enlarging the 4th 7 times of Zedekiah. Do you follow? I know it's time up. Thanks. Alright. Verse 17. And I will bring distress upon men. They shall walk like blind men. So in the day of the Lord, what do people walk like? Blind men. Walk like a blind man. Zedekiah. Because when Nebuchadnezzar takes him, what does he do to his eyes? Curtains them out, right? Yes. It says like blind men, but it is blind men. You have those issues, right? But it's blind men. It is a day of darkness and a day of trumpet and alarm, so we can see a connection between the 4th trumpet and the 4th 7 times, because the 4th trumpet darkens the sun, and we also see a walking like blind men, which is exactly what happened to Zedekiah. So, if we follow line upon line logic as we've been doing, as a student of prophecy, you should already be able to place it by default. You know, there's those lines that God gives you. And because it fits every other line that you've been following in, it follows the same sequence. Even without evidence, you can be able to show by default that this is what has to happen next. So what have we been identifying about all the fours? Where do they begin? All the fourth judgments, the fourth trumpet, the mighty king, Alexander, Jehu, etc. Where do they always begin? At midnight. So if Zedekiah is the primary figure under the fourth trumpet, where does Zedekiah have to be anointed as king? Midnight. You follow? Because we're just using the same logic all the way. Same prophetic rules. So, 2 Kings 24:18. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to put up notes. How old was Zedekiah when he was anointed king? 21. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign. And how long did he reign? 11 years. Right? 11 years. And you can show that during the American Civil War, which begins with the Midnight Cry, we had 11 Protestant churches going to the government. Let's skip that about the 11. 11 now, we're almost done. Let's go to page 53. The AD 66 was a what? A siege. But what does Celsius do when he besieges? What does he do? What does he do? Which was odd. Yeah, he does, but what was odd about what he did? He what? He abandoned the siege. Do you follow? He abandoned the siege. So let's read PK 452, paragraph 2. Paragraph 2, PK 452, paragraph 2. The Egyptians endeavored to come to the rescue of the beleaguered city, and the Chaldeans, in order to keep them back, abandoned for a time the siege of the Judean capital. So when Nebuchadnezzar goes to Zedekiah and he besieges, what does he do? He abandons the siege. So this is AD 66 all over again. You follow? He abandons the siege. Here we see Nebuchadnezzar abandoning the siege, which is exactly what Celsius did, only for him, Nebuchadnezzar, to come back and destroy his Titus. So, Celsius abandons to come and destroy in AD 60. You follow? You follow that, right? Okay. In AD 70, sorry. AD 70. So, Nebuchadnezzar abandons, but he then came back, didn't he? He came back to finish his work. So I have there all of that. Let's skip about the destruction of Jerusalem. There's a point I want to get to. I think those will be my closing remarks. Okay, go to page 55. Now, I'm not going to be reading the verses because we're out of time, but it's up. You have to go and test it yourself. But Zedekiah is anointed in 21, right? But he rules for how long? 11 years. 11 years. But Nebuchadnezzar came to besiege in Zedekiah's 9th year. Right? So for 9, 11. But he came to besiege in the 9th year of Zedekiah. So if Zedekiah is made king at 21, and the siege takes place in his 9th year, how old was he at the time of the siege? He was 30. Where do you put the number 30? Midnight. That's what we're doing, right? 30. Because this is when Nebuchadnezzar abandons the siege. But he abandons it. So you've got this 3 year. 9th year, 10th year, 11th year. So you've got the number 3. Right? 1, 2, 3. And these are the 3 days we've been dwelling on. Because he then comes back in the 11th year. So how old would Zedekiah be in the 11th year? 32. 32. Who's the mighty king?
Alexander the Great.
Alexander. What happened to his kingdom when he died? Divided into 4 ways. But how old was he when he died? 32. When the kingdom is divided, it's divided into how many parts? 4 parts. Nero. How old was Nero when he died? 32. And when Nero died, what did he inaugurate? The year of the 4 emperors. Kingdom was divided into 4 parts, which is a civil war. Right? So in the notes, when he talks about Zedekiah in chapter 25, when he's talking about the fall of Jerusalem, it says the city was broken up. Right? But what's a city in the Bible? A kingdom. So a city in the Bible is a what? It's a kingdom. So So the kingdom was what? If the city was broken up and we're saying a city is a kingdom, the kingdom was what? It was broken up. But the word broken up, if you look in your notes, it means divided. So when Zedekiah was punished here by Nebuchadnezzar, what happened to his kingdom? It was divided. It was divided, scattered among the heathen. So it was divided towards the four winds. So do you see the connections there? Right? I couldn't get to calmly go through some points. I didn't want to leave some things hanging. But we can always discuss. Any 1, 2 questions and we pray? We couldn't get to do Manasseh. We could take the first or the 4 7 times and bring it over to the 4. So he's going to teach us other things. But let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this prophecy school, for the solemn truths that we're learning, Lord, in connection with how you're opening up various truths, the Civil War, the Revolution, the trumpets, and every other study we've been doing, the medical missionary, and just, Lord, the nature of man. We thank you, merciful Savior, now as we depart for our breakfast, that we might continue to have a devotional frame of mind and prepare adequately for the Sabbath, and be ready to meet you in the day of the Lord. Let us not be found without preparation, and may all honor and glory ascend to